Hello friends, channel members, welcome back to another video in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is going to be the second part of the Inibuilds A310 video where we are going to push back and taxi to the runway, take off and climb until the cruise level, and we'll discuss what we are going to do to complete these stages of the flight. However, before I start, I will go over a couple things that I received questions about. First one is I got asked how I installed the liveries. There are a lot of liveries in flightsim.to starting to populate, and I think at the time I checked it, it was 29 available. But Inibuilds also provided us with some libraries that you can download using their Inimanager. You can download Inimanager from Inibuilds website. If you search for Inimanager V2 in Google, you will be able to find it and then download and install. When you install, let me move it aside, and run it, you are going to be asked to create an account, which is free, and when you create the account and launch the program, you will see a similar screen. On the side, you'll see a livery manager. When you go to the livery manager, it has liveries for the A310, but it also has liveries for Phoenix PMDG 737 series as well. This is where I downloaded my other liveries for this aircraft. There are a lot of liveries in flightsim.to, as I mentioned. But if you'd like to install a couple more from Inibuilds, and the difference of these liveries are they are weathered and they look quite nice. So I highly recommend using their software to download these additional liveries to give you some more selections in your liveries. Next up is in the marketplace. This was not clear or explained anywhere, but if you are a PC user, sorry about my phone, and if your texture resolution is not quite nice for the A310, go into the marketplace and search for A310. And at the bottom, you'll see an Airbus A310-300 enhanced. This is free, and when you install it through marketplace, and again, I'd like to mention this is for PC users only. And I think they did this to improve the performance on Xbox. So when you install this will increase your texture resolution to 4K, and your cockpit textures and exterior textures will become more crisp. There is also another package for the DC3. This is an extra. You can search for DC3 and see DC3 Enhanced. This will also improve the cockpit textures and exterior textures of the DC3 that was released with the 40th-year anniversary. So these are the things I'd like to mention. I have one more thing, but for that I need to load into the aircraft, and I will bring you guys back when I'm there. In the first part of this video series, I struggled with the Simbrief integration. So this aircraft has Simbrief integration. I always thought it was configured through the EFB under the settings, but that was not true. It is actually in the flight management computer. When you go to the menu and pull the ACARS, you can enter your username. However, there is a caveat here. If your username for Simbrief has underscores or different characters like mine, you won't be able to enter this through here because there are no special characters on the keyboard. So how you can do this is you need to go and find the file and edit it manually in Windows. And that file can be found here at App Data, Local Packages, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Local State Packages, Microsoft Aircraft A310-300, and Work folder. There is a Simbrief file in here. If you open this, it will list your username. So if you type in your Simbrief username here manually, it will be carried into the flight management computer, and you will have Simbrief integration, which works quite nicely. I highly recommend it if you want to speed up the setup process. And this also allows you to get ADIS, which is going to be the meta information. If you click and select Amsterdam, and send this. This is instant. There is no delay between messages like the fly-by-wire aircraft. I'm not sure if this is true to life, but when you go into the messages and pull the ADIS, it will give you the current METAR information. So these are the things I'd like to mention. I hope this helps you to configure this aircraft and set your Simbrief integration, and we will continue with the rest of the tutorial. Come back, friends. We are currently loaded, everything is programmed, APU is running, and we are pretty much ready for pushback. And this is where we are going to start the part 2 of the Airbus A310-300 video series. We are now ready for pushback, but before we do so, I'll go over a couple more things that I did with the FMC or MCDU. Secondary flight plan, I copied the active here, so if we clear that message, copy active so that we have a backup flight plan. Progress page, I have entered Echo Hotel Alpha Mike 09er, that's the runway for Schiphol, and it is showing the bearing and distance. The other thing is the takeoff page. We see the V2 here. Remember from last video I was not able to figure out how to set this up, but it says FCU in the brackets right next to it. So to set this up, you need to set your speed bug to 165, and that will bring the V2 speed there, and it will also bug it on your airspeed indicator. The other thing you can do is press the button in and set 250 knots. That is going to be the pre-selected speed, and when you pull the button out, that will set the speed to 250, and the aircraft will accelerate to 250 knots, which is the speed we need to accelerate below 10,000. Alright, everything is now set for pushback. We'll keep this page at flight plan, we'll keep the speeds over here, and we'll talk about other things like the direct to and other things in the FMC when we are at the cruise, or we might leave it to the next episode or next part. So let's request our pushback from GSX. Hopefully it will push us back correctly. So prepare pushback, and we will use Swissport International. That's the default job. I think GSX randomly chooses these, so let's go with that and let's see what it looks like. It doesn't look like anything. Looks like GSX has not loaded anything for us just yet. Interesting. Departure clearance requested, but nothing is happening. Let me figure this out, guys. Right, I think I figured the problem. Sorry about that slight issue with GSX, but now the guy is coming up to connect the tag to the aircraft, and we need to start our before start flow. I'll pull up the before start checklist. We'll turn on all the fuel pumps. We'll turn the probe heats and the window heats on. We'll select engine start A. APU bleed should be on. Beacon light goes on now. And that is pretty much it. Let's go and do the checklist. Cockpit preparation completed. Signs are on. Well, fuel quantity, we have 12 tons of fuel. Nav is checked. Landing elevation. That is set here. I forgot to do that. That's 700 feet. Remember from the previous tutorial. Altimeters are set. Brakes and anti-skid, that's normal. Windows, doors closed. Beacon is on. Parking brake is on. We will nose right, tail left. That's our pushback direction.
Locking gear.
He's gonna lock the gear, and we should be able to start the engines after that. Oh, by the way, we need to disconnect the external power. We are on APU power. Right now, let's disconnect that. Nothing should change, and we are all looking good here. And I'll bring the after start checklist. We will release the parking brake.
All engines clear. Start at will.
Alright, he started pushing us. So to start the engines, we will engage and start the right engine first. Engage the starter. We will see the M.2 increasing here. We are looking for 20% or more. And we will introduce the fuel. If you do this before, you will do a hot start and the EGT will jump up and then come back and stabilize, but that is not a desired engine start. So coming up to 20%, we will introduce fuel by clicking the fuel valve. I did it on my controller. So now we see fuel flow, M1 rotation, ignition, and the engine is spooling up. I still need to figure out how to set this, make this pre-selected speed active. I think you need to pull the knob out. We will see that when we are up in the air. Right, engine should stabilize around 22-23%. And there is a message on our eCam saying true air temperature is in icing range, which means we need engine anti-ice for takeoff. And I did that, the performance calculation before the engine anti-ice, and I did it again off screen, and it hasn't changed anything. But let's start the left engine and disconnect the tug, because we will have no problems, I assume. They can disconnect. Again, looking for 20%. And we will introduce fuel by switching the fuel valve or fuel switch to on. That's 20. Let's introduce fuel, fuel flow, M1 rotation, and we should see ignition here. Ignition. And that is the sign of a good engine start. We're looking good. And we will wait for the engine to stabilize, and we will do our after start flows. Engine should be stable very shortly. Oh, the engine generator is online. And we have a stable engine. So we can now select the starter switch to off. That's the first thing. We can turn off the APU bleed and APU. We'll turn on the taxi light or nose light to taxi. Passenger signs are on, no smoking goes on too. Down below, we will set the pitch trim. In the first part, remember I was having issues with where to put the trim. So our trim is 10. I will show where I see it. So we will roll the trim wheel. So that's first mark is 1. And if we check the performance calculation, or I'm sorry, the weights and balances, it will say 1.0 up. So that's checked. Let's make sure our doors are closed. They are. And we will do the after start checklist. Pitch trim is set, rudder trim 0. We will zero it out with this. Spoilers, we will arm the spoilers. And we will select our takeoff flaps 15-15. Slats flaps 15-15 set. eCam status, nothing there. We will see a purple status message if there was something wrong. Anti-ice, we will turn them on because we have the icing range, and hand signal we will receive momentarily from the guy, or we have maybe already did. So engine anti-ice is here, we'll turn them on. And that is after start checks complete. We will pull the checklist to before takeoff. And taxi light is on. We can release the parking brake and the aircraft should start rolling with its own power, which is always nice to see. Alright, we will taxi to runway 09. At this point, while taxiing, we can do the flight controls check by bringing the flight controls ECAM page. Pull forward, pull back, neutral, pull left, pull right, neutral, right rudder, left rudder, and neutral. So flight controls are checked and free. And I will continue taxiing to the runway. We can bring back the wheels page of the ECAM display, and I will meet you guys at the hold short point of runway 09er. See you in a little bit. Coming up to runway 09. While we are taxiing, we will do a takeoff config check by pressing this button, and the ECAM should display TO test normal. That is checked. Transponder, we will just squawk 2000. We are not using ATC. That is set. Flap slats, they are showing 1515, and this should be the before takeoff down to the line. So let's go and do the checklist. Flight controls are checked, briefing is confirmed, slats flaps 1515, performance FMA is checked and read, TO config checked, and transponder is set. We'll do below the line while we are at the runway. This is our turn into runway 09er. We'll take this right turn and hold short and do the rest of the flows. It is very nice to see this aircraft rolling with its idle power, and taxiing is very nice. So we will stop here before entering the runway. We'll set the parking brake. Parking brake set, and we will do our before takeoff flows. So ignition selector goes to continuous relight, strobe comes on, nose wheel goes to takeoff, and we assume that we have takeoff clearance, so runway turn off lights and landing lights will come on. Transponder will go to TI array now, and that is all we need to do. Let's go and do the checklist below the line. Cabin is secure, transponder is TI array, packs are on, ignition is continuous relight, and NTIs, engine NTIs is on. Let's release the parking brake and line up with the runway, and we will discuss what we are going to do our takeoff roll. Basically, our speeds are already bugged here. What we will do is we will increase the throttles to 50% N1, and when we are at 50%, there is a secret toga button here. You can use this to activate toga mode. That should also engage auto thrust, and we will read the FMA, and we will be on our way. At 138, we will rotate, and we will start cleaning up the flaps at V2 plus 20. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, V2. Oh, flaps speed. So 152 plus 20, 172. We will retract the flaps, and then at 190, we will retract the slats and clean up the aircraft and do the after takeoff checklist. Obviously, for me to be able to do it, I have to activate the autopilot or engage the autopilot, but we will see about that. Runway 09er is identified. We lined up nicely, so we will stop here and increase the throttles to 50%. Release the brakes. It's 50%, engines are stable, and toga. Thrust SRS heading FD1, T climb nav blue, auto thrust engaged, and we are on our way. We will keep the center line. We are accelerating, so we will release the forward pressure, passing 80 knots gently, maintain the center line, and we are coming up to rotate. V1 and rotate. Lift her off gently. There we go. Let's correct our heading. So we are passing V2, 165. It's 170. Flaps are coming in. We will select the pre-selected speed by pulling the knob. It didn't work. We will select it manually, and we need to follow the flight director, by the way. So pitch up to climb, and then we will set the speed to 250. Speed is set. We need to pitch down now. Flight director is commanding us to pitch down to accelerate. That is the claim flap speed or slats speed. And we will maintain this and follow the flight director. Alright, coming up to our turn here. We can also put the terrain on. I'm not sure if this is working, but it is time for us to engage the autopilot. So profile and nav is already engaged. And the aircraft should start climbing when we pass the thrust reduction altitude, which was 1480, I believe. There we go. P thrust, P climb engaged, and nav is active, and we can do our after takeoff flows. Ignition lever switch goes back to off. Engine NTIs, we will keep them on. We will retract the landing gear, which I forgot after takeoff. Landing gear is coming in. How did I forget that? Is interesting. Anyway, I think I had too much to deal with. So landing gear is now in travel and it is retracted. We will put this to off. We will turn off the runway turn off lights and nose wheel right, because the gear is now retracted. It will leave us with the landing lights and strobe and beacon. So that is done. Spoilers we can disarm now. And that is pretty much it. Slats flaps retracted. And we are climbing up to 10,000. We will be passing 5,000, which is the transition altitude. Let's go and set on the standard QNH on all the altimeters and do the after takeoff. Slats flaps retracted. Landing gear up neutral. Packs are on. Altimeters are set. So that's after takeoff checklist completed. Alright. So now the speed is controlled by the profile or P climb or VNAV. We are passing 6,600 feet. Engine parameters are looking normal. Climb is automatically activated. And that is pretty much it until we reach the cruise level. So we can now set the cruise altitude, and to change the altitude to thousands you need to pull the knob or push the knob in, and then you can set the altitude in thousands. I think our cruise level was 3,700, and let me check that very quickly. Yep, that's correct. And we are passing, or almost about to pass 10,000. So we will bring the landing lights in. Landing lights are retracted, and we can release the passengers. That is all we need to do until we reach cruise. And this aircraft flies beautifully. Look at that. Beautiful. So the next step is to reach to cruise level, and we will talk about a couple things and end the video there for the next part to discuss descent, arrival, approach, and landing. Everything is taken care of automatically. The aircraft is accelerating to the climb speed. If we check the progress save page, we will see the cruise level, optimum cruise level, they do match. We can change this to our destination airport now, Echo November Golf Mike, and the runway we are expecting is 01 left, so that will give us the distance to the runway, 500 miles to go. And we will talk about the other stuff in the next part, like the descent forecast and other things. One thing we can now do is, if we check our flight plan page and increase the range, our next is Andic, and let's say, let me go another level. Let's say we are cleared direct to Grony by the ATC. So we'll select Grony and insert, and the aircraft should now start turning towards Grony, and that's how you do a direct to in this aircraft. I think we are above the clouds now. We can turn off engine anti-ice. That should not be necessary, and the rest is to check the pressurization system to make sure we have the cabin altitude and differential pressure and everything is working, which they are. And that is about it for this part of the video. We will reach to the cruise level, and then we will discuss how to plan the approach, how to enter the approach information into the flight management computer. We will talk about descent because, well, even this profile climb is similar to VNAV. It is not super accurate, so you need to be controlling your speed and checking your deviation, which we will discuss in the next part of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button, and if you are not a channel subscriber and enjoyed the content, take a couple seconds to subscribe. That helps a lot and keeps the channel growing and ensures that more videos will be coming in the future. Thanks for being with me here today, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.